I want to tell you about a very specific kind of Tuesday. You're on a Zoom call with a client. You're also secretly, heroically monitoring your community in another tab. You've got a browser window open because someone asked a question this morning that you haven't answered yet. You have a sticky note on your desk that says, "Follow up with Sarah," and you can't remember which Sarah or what you're even following up about. There's a post you meant to schedule for Thursday that, oh, crap, you're pretty sure it's still sitting in your drafts. And in the middle of all of this, a new member just posted their intro and you want to welcome them properly. You're excited they're here. But your client is talking and you are trying to look present on camera while also mentally composing a welcome message in your head. Friends, that's a lot of tabs open, not just on your computer. And at some point, maybe you're there right now. Maybe you've been there for a while. You start thinking, I need to hire someone to help run this community, which, yes, maybe. But how you answer that question matters a lot because I have seen founders hire too early and waste money on a role that wasn't ready to exist. I've seen them hire the right person and then completely prevent that person from doing the job. And I've seen them wait so long that they burned out and handed off the community in total chaos. So today we're talking about how to know when you're actually ready, what a community manager should and should not be doing, and how to find someone who genuinely wants this kind of work. Let's go. Hi, friends. When you're growing a community, here's the thing nobody warned you about. Getting members in is one challenge. Keeping them there without running yourself into the ground is a completely different one. Welcome to Community at Heart, where we get honest about what it really takes to build a membership business that lasts. We're talking retention over reach, systems over stress, and building spaces that people genuinely want to show up for, including you. I'm Rachel Starr, former wedding planner, recovering people pleaser, and someone who learned the hard way that doing it all yourself isn't a growth strategy. It's just exhausting. I'm a Circle certified partner and founder of the Co-Creator Society, and I help membership leaders go from overwhelmed to magnetic, attracting members who stay, pay, and invite their friends without it costing you your energy or your sanity. Each week, I'm bringing you practical strategies, real conversations, and the behind-the-scenes truth about growing a community without sacrificing your nervous system. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee or sweet tea, and let's get into it. Welcome back, friends. Today, let's just get into it because this episode has been on my list for a while, and I think it's going to be a really good one. One of the questions I get asked most often by community founders who've hit a certain level is some version of, when do I hire someone to help me run this? And I totally understand why it comes up because at a certain point, the community takes on a life of its own, and the operational side of keeping it running starts to eat you alive. But here's what I've noticed. When founders reach out asking this question, they're usually asking it wrong. They're not asking, am I ready to hire? They're asking, how do I make this overwhelm stop? And those, well, they're not the same question. So before we talk about who to hire and what they should do, I want to talk about readiness because getting this part wrong is expensive, not just in money, but in trust, in your members' experience, and honestly, in your own sanity. Here's the thing about hiring a community manager. When you're not ready, it usually makes things harder, not easier. I've seen this happen. Founder is stretched thin, she's tired, she brings someone in because she needs relief, but she hasn't documented how anything works. She hasn't defined what the role is. She hasn't figured out what she's actually handing off. So the new person starts asking 100 questions because, of course, they are. And now the founder is doing two jobs, hers and answering all the questions from the person she hired to help her. That's not delegation. That's just redistributing the chaos. So, how do you know if you're actually ready? Here's what I look for. Signal one: your community has found its footing. If you're still figuring out the culture, still testing what your members need, still building the rhythms and rituals that make the space feel alive, that's not the moment to bring someone else in. That's the moment to be present yourself. You can't hand off something that doesn't have a clear shape yet. Think about it this way: a restaurant doesn't hire a floor manager before the menu is figured out. You bring in support once the thing is working so they can sustain what's already good, not try to reinvent it. When your community has a heartbeat of its own, when people know how to show up and they're doing it, that's when a community manager can actually thrive in the role. Signal 2, the operational work is piling up. There's a whole category of community tasks that are operational, not strategic. Welcoming new members, monitoring for unanswered posts, scheduling content, managing the platform, tracking who's engaging and who's gone quiet. When this work is consistently not getting done because there isn't enough of you, that's a real legitimate signal, not just exhaustion, a real capacity wall. Signal 3, your growth is being capped by you. If you're holding back on promoting the community more actively because you're scared of what happens when it gets bigger and you're already stretched, that's the ceiling talking. A community manager can genuinely raise that ceiling, but only if the other signals are there too. Signal 4, you have documented systems. All right, friends, this is the one that kills most first hires, and I want to say it clearly. If how your community runs exists primarily in your head, if the process for welcoming a new member or handling a tech issue or scheduling a post isn't written down anywhere, you don't have something to hand off. You have something that follows you around. Before you hire, document. Even a one-page overview of the 3 most reoccurring community tasks is enough to start. It doesn't have to be a full operations manual. It just has to exist outside your brain so someone else can actually follow it. I promise you the 20 minutes you spend writing that down will save you weeks of back and forth messages that start with, "Quick question." Signal 5, and this is the big one. You are ready to actually let go. Running a community and leading a community are 2 different jobs. In operator mode, you're doing the work. In leader mode, you're setting the direction, making the calls, and showing up in ways that only you can. A community manager takes the operational work, but only if you are willing to release it. And I know this sounds obvious, but I have seen founders, good, smart, self-aware founders, bring in a community manager and then immediately start reviewing every single message before it goes out, answering every question themselves, jumping in on member interactions because the anxiety of not being in control is stronger than the intention to delegate. That's not a hiring problem. That's a letting go problem. And it's worth knowing which one you actually have before you spend money on the hire. Let's say the signals are there, you're ready. Now, what does this role actually look like? Because here is the fantasy version. And I say this with love because I think most of us have had this fantasy at some point. You hire someone amazing, you hand over the keys, and the community just runs. It's warm and buzzing. Members are engaged. You show up occasionally to say something wise and everyone is delighted to see you. That's not the job. And if you hire expecting that, what you'll actually get is a community that starts to feel like it's being managed by someone who isn't you, which is a problem because a big reason your members are there is because of you. Here's what a community manager job actually is: to handle everything that doesn't require your specific presence, so that when you show up, you can be fully there instead of split across 17 things at once. In practice, that means welcoming new members and making sure nobody falls through the cracks in their first week. It means monitoring for unanswered questions because nothing signals this community doesn't care, quite like posting something and hearing nothing back. It means scheduling and publishing content so the space has rhythm even when you're deep in a launch. It means following up with members who've gone quiet, keeping the tech running, tracking engagement patterns, and reporting back to you on what's actually happening inside the space. That's the operational layer. And it is valuable, meaningful work. Don't underestimate that. But here's what a community manager is not doing: setting the culture, making strategic decisions, becoming the main relationship your members connect with. Those pieces stay with you. And I want to talk about why that matters so much. There's something I call the soul layer of a community, and it's the part that cannot be handed off, not because you haven't found the right person, but because it is specifically and directly tied to you, your presence, your perspective, your actual relationships with the people inside. It's the post you write at 9 p.m. because something happened that day and you need to share it. It's the way you respond when someone in the community shares a hard win or a hard loss. The kind of response where the member reads it and thinks, she actually sees me. It's the live calls where people show up because they want to be in the room with you, not just in the community. It's every big decision about where this thing is going and why. These are the reasons people joined. They're the reason someone renews after their first month, even when their life got busy. A community manager, no matter how good they are, cannot be those things. They can hold the space around those moments. They cannot be those moments. So when I talk about hiring a CM, I'm not talking about stepping back from your community. I'm talking about stepping back from the operational management of it so you can actually be more present in the places that matter most. More of you where you only will do. Less of you scheduling Thursdays posts at midnight. That's the trade, and it's a really good one. So how do you figure out what to actually hand off first? Here's my rule. Anything you could write a checklist for, hand it off. New member welcome flows, daily monitoring, content scheduling, event reminders, platform maintenance. That's your CM's lane from day one. Then there's work that's important but doesn't need your specific voice. Following up with a member who hasn't engaged yet, sending a response someone asked for, pinning a post. A CM who knows your culture and your community style can do those things with genuine warmth. The test I use is simple. Would a member notice if it was you or someone else who handled this? If the answer is no, delegate it. If the answer is yes, keep it. And keep the things that are yours without apology. Responding to significant personal shares, culture setting moments, live programming, decisions about the direction of the community. That's the leader work. That's your job. Now, how do you actually find the right person? Because this is where a lot of community founders go wrong. They treat it like a general admin hire. Someone organized, reliable, good communicator, and those things matter, but they're not enough. Community management requires something different. It requires someone who cares about the people in the way that this work demands. And the best way to screen for that is to look for these things. First up, they actually live in communities themselves, not on a resume, in reality. Are they members of spaces they care about? Because someone who has been inside a well-run community knows from the inside what it feels like to be welcomed well, to have a question acknowledged, to feel like the space is consistent and safe. That lived experience gives them an intuition that no job description can manufacture. Number 2, read how they communicate. Everything they send you, the application email, the follow-up, how they respond when you ask them a scheduling question. Are they warm? Are they clear? Do they sound like a person? Because this person will be writing to your members in the moments when you're not there. Their voice needs to feel right for your community. And you can tell a lot about how someone writes to you when they want something. Number 3, look for service orientation, not control orientation. This one is the hardest to screen for and the most important. Some people are drawn to this kind of role because they like the authority of it. Being the one who manages the space, sets the rules, decides what's okay. That is not who you want. You want someone who lights up when a member has a good experience. Someone who gets satisfaction from the community running smoothly, even when nobody notices it was their doing. Ask them why they want to do this work. Listen carefully. Is the answer about people or is it about power? Number 4, hire for judgment. Routine tasks you can train. What you cannot train, not really, is good judgment in the moments that matter. And community management has a lot of those moments. The post that needs a careful response, the conversation that's starting to go sideways, the member who's clearly frustrated and needs to feel heard before anything else can help them, the situation that no checklists anticipated. In those moments, your CM is going to handle it well or handle it badly, and you're going to find out after the fact. So, during your interview process, give candidates a scenario, something real and specific from your community. See how they think it through. See whether their instinct is to reach for a policy or to actually understand what's happening. That judgment is the thing that will protect what you've built. Okay, one more thing before we close, and I think it might be the most important thing I say today. The most common reason community manager hires fail isn't the wrong hire. It's the right hire, and then the founder won't let them do the job. I've seen this one so many times. A founder hires someone, great. The community needs support. And then the founder reviews every single message before it goes out, answers every member question herself, even though the CM is right there, jumps in on interactions because the discomfort of not being in control is louder than the intention to delegate. The CM, who is good, who wants to help, ends up waiting for approvals, watching the founder redo things, eventually either quietly checking out or delivering work they know will just get changed anyways. And the founder burns out and wonders why hiring didn't help. Sound familiar? I thought it might. Here's a reframe that I come back to a lot. A community manager doesn't replace your presence in the community. They make room for it. When someone else is handling the operational layer, you stop spending your limited community time on things anyone organized and warm could do. And you spend it on the moments that only you can hold. That's not less of you. That's more of you where you actually matter most. Build in check ins, create a clear, simple process for decisions that need to come to you, and then trust the person. Let them welcome members in their own voice. Let them make the small calls. Review patterns over time, not every action in real time. That's what real delegation looks like, and that's the only version that works. All right, friends. Here's what I want you to take away from today. Before you hire, check all 5 signals. Is the community proven? Is the operational work clearly defined and documented? Is growth actually being capped by your capacity? And are you ready? Really ready to lead instead of operate. When you hire, scope the role to the operational layer. Welcome, monitor, schedule, follow up, manage the platform, report back. Everything else, your voice, your relationships, your live presence, your strategic decisions, that stays with you. Who to hire for? Someone who lives in communities, communicates like a human, cares more about member experience than authority, and can use good judgment in the moments that matter. And then extend the trust that makes the whole thing possible. Here's what happens when you get this right. The community doesn't shrink without you in every corner of it. It breathes. It gets to grow into itself, and you get to show up as the leader you actually built this thing to be, instead of the person who's always one unanswered post away from dropping something important. That's the goal, friends. That's why we're building this way. Let's go make it happen. If this episode got you thinking about what you're carrying, what you might be ready to hand off, or what support could actually look like for you, come continue the conversation over on the Community at Heart Substack. That's where we go deeper than the podcast, more strategy, more behind the scenes, more of the honest conversation that doesn't quite fit in an episode. The link is in the show notes. And if your community feels stalled, messy, or harder to run than it should be, that's exactly what we're here for inside the Co-Creator Society. We take your membership from stalled and messy to profitable and thriving. The structure, the systems, and the people around you doing the same thing. Head to co-creatorsociety.com to learn more. Until next time, bye, friends.